Welcome back to the Maelstrom, ladies and gentlemen. We have another Warhammer 40k battle report for you today. 2,000 points, Necrons versus Khorne Demons. You may notice those two armies are armies that I usually play today. Griff is going to take over my Necrons, and Eric, my younger brother, is going to take over my Demons. They will be fighting over the Arctic wasteland terrain in a tactical objectives mission. They are playing Cloak and Shadows, so their objectives will be secretive during each turn. They will only be known to you, the viewer, and the player who generates them. We have 6 objectives set up across the table, as always. Those objectives are numbered 1 to 6 for tactical objectives already. This mission is Hammer and Anvil. The Necrons will be on the right side of the table, and the Khorne Demons will be down here. We will be right back with the army lists. First up, we have the forces of the Khorne Demons, commanded today by Eric. They are led by a Bloodthirster of Insensate Rage. He has rolled up +1 wound and it will not die, along with reroll invul saves on his greater rewards. He is joined by a Murder Horde, which consists of 3 squads of 10 Bloodletters. They have an instrument and a banner of blood in each squad, and then 4 squads of 6 Flesh Hounds. And then to finish out the Murder Horde, there are 5 Blood Crushers with an instrument and a banner of blood, and they are led by Skulltaker himself, mounted on his mighty Juggernaut. To finish the list out, we have a Forge Host, which consists of 3 Soul Grinders that have the Phlegm Bombardment upgrade. So that is the Khorne Demons. We'll be right back with the Decurion. Next up, we have the Decurion detachment. It started off with a Reclamation Legion led by a Warlord, Overlord, who has just a War Scythe, no other war gear. He is joined by 2 squads of 10 Warriors, and they are backed up by 2 squads of 10 Immortals. To finish off that infantry footprint, we have 10 Death Marks and 2 squads of 5 Praetorians. In the last part of the Reclamation Legion, we've got 9 bikes that have all of their awesome sauce upgrades, the Shield Veins and the Nebula Scopes. Backing up the Triarchs in the Judicator Battalion, we have a Heat Ray armed Triarch Stalker. And then for Canoptic Harvest, we have 3 Wraiths with Whip Coils, a Spider Bare Bones, and 6 bases of Scarabs. And also, I forgot to mention, in the Reclamation Legion, we have a Lone Monolith. So you've seen the armies, and you have seen the table. We will be back as we get stuck into the Maelstrom. Deployment is complete with the Necrons set up to have the first turn. They've deployed across their front here. Warriors and Immortals taking up the front with the second squad of Immortals and the Praetorians in rear guard here. And then we have the Scarabs and the rest of the Canoptic Harvest on this flank. Monolith backing them up. And the Death Marks are in reserve. On this flank, we've got all of the Demons except the Bloodletters. They are deep striking. We've got the Soul Grinders spread out across the middle of the army. And then Hounds and the Bloodthirster making up the middle with the Blood Crushers on this flank. So we're going to let the Hounds scout. And then we will be back with the Seize Roll. After further inspection of the table, the Khorne Hounds have decided discretion is a better part of valor. They're going to skip on their scout moves, but the Khorne Demons are going to attempt to seize the initiative. And with a 2, they will not. So Necrons have turn 1, and we will be back once that has finished. Turn 1 for the Necrons rolls to an end. Not much movement or anything, just kind of some repositioning. They did discard 2 of their objectives, and they scored secure objective 5 because these warriors are holding it. So at that point it is 1-0 in favor of the Necrons, but not much done. They just kind of hung out waiting for the Demons to start their advance. So that is the end of turn 1 for the Necrons. Khorne Demon response coming up. Khorne Demons have knocked out turn 1. General advance, as usual, rushing up the center here to claim objectives. But none of the objectives they scored for tactical this turn, or that they drew for tactical, rather, were scored. The Soul Grinders advanced in an attempt to draw their guns down. To begin with, the Warp Storm came down on 4 units. It hit the Scarabs and destroyed one of them, wounded one of the Wraiths, hit the Triarch Stalker, but did not do any damage. And then hit the Warriors down here, but weren't able to bring anybody down. The Soul Grinders, from all of their combined shooting, brought down 1 Warrior from this squad, 1 Warrior from that squad, and 4 of the Scarab Swarms. So first blood still has not been scored. Necron turn 2 coming up. Necron turn 2 up to the shooting phase has been completed. Everything maneuvered forward to try to get some shooting in before the dogs and the cavalry crashed home. Shooting on this flank, 2 shots went into the blood crushers that landed. They took more hits than that, but made a bunch of invul saves. Only took 2 wounds. Down here, 3.5 hounds would have been destroyed, but 3 6-up feel no pains were made off of his warlord trait. These guys were oblivious to the pain and continued on despite having half their heads blown off. Down here, the particle whip killed 2 of the hounds, and 1.5 more hounds went down to Gauss fire. Here we've got a melee heating up. The Canoptic Harvest has swarmed in to fight these hounds. So we have got our first melee going on. We will be back once Necrons finish up the assault phase. As we discussed the assault phase, it's worth mentioning the Deathmarks did come in. They attempted to land here to fight with the Bloodthirster, but they scattered back into their own squads here and suffered a misplaced result. So they landed back here, but did run up in the shooting phase. Forgot to mention that in the last video. However, getting onto the combat here, the Scarabs did absolutely nothing when their turn came to swing. They hit like 5 times and did no damage. The Wraiths managed to bring down 1 hound, and the hounds wounded 1 of the 3 Wraiths and punched 1 wound out of the Scarabs. So drawn combat there, not much happening. Not too good for the initial offering to Khorne, but I think the rest of the Khorne Demons are going to try to offer something a little more substantial. That is the end of Necron turn 2. Khorne Demon response coming up. Khorne Demons turn 2 is up to the assault phase. Everything continued its general advance in the shooting phase. The Soul Grinder back here turned around, busted 2 of these guys with his harvester cannon, or his flame bombardment. This one and his buddy fired into this warrior squad, managed to bring 1 of them down. However, the funniest part of the shooting phase is what we've got set up down here. He did roll to bring in the start of another incursion, and he chose to bring in some Zinch demons. They rolled on Demonology Malefic and rolled Sacrifice, so we're going to see them start turning into heralds and popping into blue horrors over the coming turns. Just don't think the Necrons can get back there to do anything about it. Then in the assault phase, the Hounds, the Bloodthirster, and the Juggernauts charged in down here across the front of the line. And down here, these Hounds charged into these Warriors. So we are getting ready. Also, I forgot to mention, the Bloodletters all showed up from reserve and deep struck back here. It was their icon that conjured in the new squad of pink horrors. So, that's where we're at before the assault phase. We will be back and see how big the hole gets between the armies here. Close combat rolls to an end. The Blood Crushers charged in. Skulltaker Boloed managed 2 hits and 1 kill, and then his buddies killed off some more here. However, the 4 Immortals who survived did manage to stick, unfortunately, for the Necrons. So the Crushers are set up there against them. These Warriors took a casualty or 2 from the Hounds, but the Bloodthirster then swung the big stick and wiped everybody out there, slaughtering them. Down here we had a gong show. Nobody did anything. Not too surprising. Neither of those units is really combat efficient for melee. And down here, 1 Hound was destroyed, and 1 base of Scarabs took 2 wounds. So not much done down there, but this side, pretty good bloodbath beginning. Necron response coming up. Necron turn 3 is completed up to the assault phase. Praetorians here moved up and have locked in, rolled a 2 for their charge range after difficult terrain, but they are in with the Blood Crushers. Here the Immortals fired and vaporized all but 1 dog here who has 1 wound left, and then did a double lock, got into both squads. The Monolith threaded the needle, punched 1 Hound out, and between the Monolith, the Praetorians, and the Heat Ray here, along with the Deathmarks, who were brought in through the Monolith, they all fired on the Bloodthirster and left him with 2 wounds. The squad here was joined by the Tomb Spider. That was about it. Oh, we also had shooting down here. 7 of the Bloodletters were ripped apart by fire from the jet bikes. So we're going into the assault phase, and we will be back once that is complete. Necron assault phase rolls to an end. Some of them offered themselves up in glorious slaughter to the tribute of Khorne's throne. These Blood Crushers decided to turn on. Skulltaker slaughtered all 4 of the Immortals, and the rest of them slaughtered all of the Praetorians before they even got to swing. So did not go in the Necron favor there one bit. However, here, the Hounds were completely annihilated by the Immortals, which then spread out to try to avoid some of the flim shots that are coming in. The Bloodthirster was charged. No 5s rolled to damage, but 2 of the Praetorians did survive. The Bloodthirster managed to crush 3 of them with his axe. Down here, Gong Show Combat, 1 warrior traded for 1 wound out of a hound, and same thing here, 1 wound traded out for 1 dead hound. So not much happened on that end, but this end continues to be a bloodbath. Khorne Demon response coming up for the bottom of turn 3. Khorne Demons have completed their turn through the shooting phase. For the Warp Storm, we got Rot, Glorious Rot. This was the only unit that was hit, and they lost 1 of their Immortals to that. They then lost 1 Immortal to this Soul Grinder's fire, and another Immortal there under the Bloodthirster's wing went down from the Soul Grinder's fire at the end. Getting ready for the combats here. This Bloodletter squad attempted an assault here. 2 of them were cut down on Overwatch. The 3rd one made it in to begin that assault. The other 2 guys here who are casualties were hit around the corner of the building by the 3rd Soul Grinder. Then the Bloodletters rolled on their charge a 12-inch move. This was the Bloodletter squad that was back here. They barreled around into the Tomb Spider to join that fight. The Pink Horrors failed, didn't do anything in the psychic phase at all. These Bloodletters then tried to assault the box, lost 4 men on Overwatch and failed their charge. But the Blood Crushers were 1 inch away after their movement for the turn. So we got several assaults going on, and we will be back once the Khorne Demons have wound up their turn. Khorne Assault phase wraps up down here. We had the Deathmarks take 1 casualty before punching the Bloodletter out and consolidating in this direction. Down here, 2 of the warriors were cut down, and the Tomb Spider was slain. The warriors returned the favor by killing all of the hounds and passing their morale check, consolidating into the Bloodletters. Down here, combat continued to be a gong show. 1 hound died, but they passed their leadership check, so everybody's still locked up there. Bloodthirster kind of predictably killed the final 2 Praetorians and swept back to try to mitigate return fire. And down here, to no surprise, the bikes were all slaughtered. Skulltaker and his guys consolidated away. So that's the end of turn 3. Necron response coming up. Necron shooting rolls to an end, getting ready for the close combat action. These guys drew fire from the Monolith, who fired a particle whip, shooting from here. Took 11 wounds total and felled 1 of the 11 5-up saves. Not much damage done, needless to say. This guy did try to make an assault to these guys and missed by an inch, trying to lock them up, but unable to do so. Over here, the Immortals fired into the Bloodthirster, left him at 1 wound and charged in. So we're about to see a clash of the Warlords here. Some other periphery combats going on as well. We will be back once that is complete. Necron assault phase rolls to an end. At that point, the Necrons are going to go ahead and phase out, call it a game. The Overlord charged into the Bloodthirster, scored 3 hits and 2 wounds between Dark Blessing and Feel No Pain. It all bounced off. The Immortals managed to score 2 wounds. He made both of the armor saves. He then killed the Lord and 4 Immortals with his Destroyer Axe. The rest of them broke and were cut down to pieces. Here, the Bloodletters lost combat. 2 of them died to combat, 2 of them died to instability checks, but they stuck in there. And the Wraiths finally cleared this combat, slaughtered the Hounds, and moved out there. So that will be game end. Victory for Khorne Demons. We will have after action review and army lists at the blog as always. Visit us on Facebook. Give us a like there, and a subscription on YouTube is the best way to let us know that you're watching the content. We appreciate all of you who have done that recently. As always, thank you for spending time with us today at the Maelstrom.